Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on a brand new episode of the NewsX Businessworld panels on the Indian economy. We have been doing this show extensively through the entire lockdown, pandemic and the various unlock phases, getting to our viewers a sense of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on various sectors, how much the different tranches of the stimulus package helped the India Inc. and how much still remained to be done. Now we are in the last year, a week of 2020. Yes, the year is almost over, but our show is still continuing, getting you, as we of course exit 2020, what the aspirations of India Inc. and the entrepreneurs of the country are for the next year as well. So joining us on this edition to kick off this last week of 2020 is Saurabh Singh, Director of App Inventive. We also have Mr. Narasimhan Raghavan, Director RTS, joining us live. Dhyanesh Bhatt, Founder and Director Gramkova, is joining us live on the broadcast as well. Darshan Bhatt, CEO of Vold, is also live with us, and Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Businessworld and Exchange for Media Group, completes the panel. Now, before we dive into conversation with our guest, Dr. Batra, let me, just kickstart with you. Actually, quite a year it's been, Dr. Batra. We've been doing these shows every week, as I said, through various stages of the pandemic, from when it just hit to when the lockdowns were in place to, of course, when the economy started opening up as well. Now, as we enter this last week of 2020, what feeling are you getting, sir? And then, of course, we'll go straight into the conversation with our panelists.
First of all, Uday, I've always believed that, every opportunity to reinvent must not be wasted. It was a forced reinvention for most of us. So clearly, while there were lots of challenges this year, I would see this year an year of creating possibilities for the next year and future. We also saw that Indian entrepreneurs are very resilient and they have solutions. Also, there was a mind shift change in terms of moving away from valuations, moving back to the basics of business, where revenue became important, where sustainability became important. But last but not the least, entrepreneurs and individuals learn to focus on what is essential and not necessarily what is vanity. I would say valuations are vanity. It's good to say, oh, this person raised $1 billion on $8 billion valuation, but what is the kind of customer acquisition? Are you buying customers or you have customer loyalty? So clearly, 2020 was a year of intense soul searching. It was a year to question your belief system. It was a question that you asked yourself, what is your purpose? A lot of us, especially people like me who are halfway through their journey, approaching 50, we ask ourselves, what is our purpose? So clearly, it may sound cliched, but the purpose of life is to have a life of purpose. And clearly, it got us thinking in those kind of ways. So 2020 has been a year that has prepared a base for 2021, where hopefully we are moving in more healthy, with a mindset that is more supportive of entrepreneurship. And most importantly, we've learned 5 things. 1, never say never. As an entrepreneur, as an individual, we don't even know what we don't know. There are unknowns, as we say. So we must make a note of that. Second is less is more. As entrepreneurs, we realize that we can do a lot more with less. Third is, as I said, I've said this before today, you heard this, whenever it rains, look for rainbows. Whenever it is dark, look for stars. There's been a lot of rainbows and stars. Fourth, which is my most favorite, is that when you cannot go outside, you go within. So you kind of ask yourself questions that in the humdrum of life you forget to ask and we are too busy doing. And last but not the least, it's a 3C economy. So any business that we imagine 2021 has to be a 3C business. The 3C being collaborative, contactless, and compassionate. So really, that's how I see 2020. I think it has prepared a 2021, which will hopefully not only be a year of recovery, but it will be a year of growth and transformation like never before.
Okay, let me, in fact, on that note, Dr. Batra, take that to Saurabh Singh, but a quick correction. We have Dhyanesh Bhatt, who is the co-founder and group CEO of Gramkova, and Darshan Bhatija is the CEO of Vold. So that's a quick correction as well.
I must say on that they was not trying to engineer a coup between the two companies. He had no brief from anyone, but go on with it.
Yes, but that's a good idea you've given them. So maybe they can discuss this off camera. Okay, but jokes apart, Saurabh Singh, let me start with you on how the year's been like for App Inventive. A bit of a gist about what your business really does, and how the year really panned out for it. What were the highs and what were the lows? You'll have to unmute yourself, and that's one of the most. I think Dr. Batra often makes the joke that as we try and unmute the economy, you have to unmute yourself. But let me also put it out there that I think unmute is going to be one of the most often used words of 2020 as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Uday. So we, as a company, we are a digital transformation service provider. We work on new age technology with mobile first experience. And so we have customers worldwide. So talking about the pandemic and the highs and lows, I would say 2020 was a great year for us because we as a company, our nature of business is primarily into the offshore model. We are majorly into outsourcing, and we are very habitual of doing and working or developing the technology for our customers, for our global customers, and from the offshore location. So I would say it has been really great for us. And so because our customers are from startups to enterprise to global Fortune 500 companies, as we are more of a technology company, so we are more like a technology partners to all our customers. And so we help our partners and companies to adopt the digital way of doing business. And so because I would say the entire pandemic, if the digital transformation was a buzzword, and that has really helped us in terms of, so we haven't seen any low during this time. In fact, all our numbers have increased. We have increased our team size from 475 before the lockdown to 600 plus people in-house working remotely from different locations today. We have also increased our revenue. We have increased our profits. So it has been really great for us till now.
And, Saurabh, as we move into 2021, as we move from a CapEx model to an OpEx model in technology, everything is, becoming an OpEx. Do you see the spends in technology going up for an average Indian SME?
Absolutely. So I see a lot of, because initially we were working with a lot of young startups and young entrepreneurs who had this beautiful idea and they have managed to get some good funding. And initially they were not really talking about the cloud computing or the data science or something like that. But these days, everyone they talks about that. So I think technology is something they're getting deep inside, and that which is really helping their business. And I'm saying, I would say this is where there's a advantage for companies like us who were helping these companies to be technology partners. So that has really helped us.
Saurabh, I again want to ask you, in the US, there are many companies who provide their services and in lieu take a equity. So they give, technology as a service, and, they do a model where instead of charging a fee, they're able to pick up equity in the company, and they've gone on to build value for themselves and for their partners. You at App Inventive, are you thinking of a model where instead of charging your clients the fees, you take up an equity in their company?
Yeah, in fact, very interestingly, one of our case study, one of our customers, they were, as you have seen recently, the OTT platforms have really grown up. So the customer is known as Flex. They have recently, so we initially started working with them, the entire technology, and what they do is they suggest that shows what I like, a kind of my personality, and they what my friends are watching. So we help them building the entire technology thing. So we've as you said, the model you just talked about. This is the model we initially started discussing with them, and today they are our technology partners. In fact, we are their partners now, And they have recently sponsored the film fair in India, which happened last week. And so the Filmfare OTT Awards were the first ever time they started with Filmfare OTT Awards, where all the big stars, they won different, and we were very proud when we see our name, one of our associated brands on the top. So that has, the model what you just said is like it's really working for us as well.
And that's a good point, and sort of that shows that any industry you talk about, be it films or the entertainment industry, or be it yours, any brand, any company, any venture with a digital presence, something to do with the digital medium, that has survived this year far better than others.
Absolutely.
That's a lesson. I think that's a lesson definitely that various companies have learned this year. Narasimhan, Raghavan, do you agree that you have to have a digital presence to succeed, and that's what this year has taught us? But tell us about RTS and how how your sector shaped up through 2020.
Sure. So good evening. Thank you for having me on the show. We are a third-party logistics company. We provide supply chain services, distribution, and physical distribution, and for many of the tier 1 blue chip companies in India, primarily in the automotive and industrial verticals. So the bread and butter of moving things around across the network, across country is what we do. The what we have seen in terms of growth, clearly Q1, which is April through June, was quite challenging in terms of what happened with the lockdown. And April was, the whole country was locked down, so we couldn't move anything from one place to the other. Come Q2, we have actually grown about 35% year over year. From last year, we have actually grown 35%. And Q3, we are doing much better. And I think, like what Dr. Anurag was saying, one of the things that has been the core of, we started this company, I'm one of the co-founders and founders of this company, started this company about 12 years back, is focusing on value and focusing on profitability and revenue, as opposed to some of the vanity metrics that you talked about. So very recently, last year, one of the largest logistics companies in India, Spot On Logistics, bought out majority stake from our company, and so they've been helping us grow the business. So the idea for us is really to become one of the largest logistics service providers in India. And while Q1 was a little bit of a bump, I think we are well on our way towards growing our footprint, growing and adding value in core sectors in the economy. In terms of digital, and what constitutes digital, I think today every business has to be digital, whether it is digital discovery, whether it is digital service providing, whether it is if you take our business, whether it is communication with our customer, track and trace, IoT, having every truck, having every piece of material that is moving through our network, understanding where it is. So a company today, every sector has to be digital. I think, and that's an area that we have focused on through this pandemic. We have increased the technology and digital footprint that we are having, and that is going to be the standard moving forward in terms of how every sector, and even a sector as basic as logistics, is going to be. You've got to be technology enabled, you've got to be digital enabled, and of course, coming back, you've got to make sure that you look at what value you add to your customer. And I think clearly the modus of creating value, generating value, making sure that there's a win-win between all stakeholders, your suppliers, your customers, your employees, and all of that has to be the core of what you do.
Okay, and Simon, as we go into 2021, in terms of logistics, supply chain management, what are the top 2-3 trends that you see getting accentuated in 2021?
See, I think the complexity of, and this is a trend, there are a few secular trends that started even when GST was introduced. One of the things that happened was a reconfiguration of the network and chains that companies had. So that is clearly one of the things that happened. So while companies were setting up, they would have 24 warehouses across every state because there were different sets of taxation that was happening. Today, along with GST, one of the things that's happened is people are looking at how do I optimize. So that is a secular trend in terms of creating large warehouses and creating networks that are inherently efficient. Now, as part of that, one of the things that's happening is India spends, I think has one of the largest logistics spends as a component of GDP. That will definitely go down. However, the consolidation of the industry is something that I think is primed to happen. The second thing that is required as part of the logistics network in order to become efficient is how do you provide efficient services? So as the industry consolidates, the efficient service providers, the people who are invested in value, who are invested in technology, who are providing genuine value to the customer is bound to survive. So I think for the people who are going to be around in the industry and who are going to actually generate value, this is going to be the greatest time that, logistics has always been talked about as a sunshine industry forever. And I think this is truly going to be the sunshine industry for the stronger players. There's definitely going to be consolidation. And we at RTS and Spot On are looking at us being one of the strongest players in India.
Okay, let me go to Dhyanesh and Darshan. Dhyanesh, tell us how your company has pivoted in the last 9 months and where are you headed as you move into 2021?
So Gram covers a rural-focused insurtech firm, I would say, and basically 68% of India's population is rural with little or no access to insurance, and that is a problem that we are trying to solve. We got established in December 2019, so it's December 2017, so it's been 2.5-3 years of our existence. FY20, which was just before COVID, I think we had a great year. We were able to show around 5x growth. In the first 3 months of COVID, I think I would say April to June, obviously things were slow because there was a lot of uncertainty as to how things would pan out. And like a lot of other startups, we tightened our belts, we shut down offices, we kind of regrouped, people started working from home. So a lot of measures were taken to ensure that the company is being able to resist the onslaught of COVID. Having said that, across the next 6 months, I would say starting from July to November, it's been significantly good for us. Agri as a sector is one which has shown most resilience, and we keep on hearing that how agri is the one that will show the path of resilience in the COVID scenario, and that has worked well for us. So in the Kharif season, we were actually able to work with approximately 4.5 lakh farmers, which is roughly around a 30% higher number than the number of farmers that we worked with last year in the Kharif season. And we expect that by the end of this year, we would have worked with around 16-17 lakh farmers. So that is around, I would say again, a 30-40% growth on my last year numbers in terms of the crop insurance work that we do. Similarly, for other lines of business, we were able to pivot a little. So, we have a phygital model. So we leverage technology and we have a, application of our own, but this is used by a partner network in rural areas. So we realized very early that the rural customer probably is not it's not the right time to introduce a do-it-yourself model. And so we have a partner network. We've been able to grow that network 3 times. We've been able to onboard multiple insurance companies on our platform. And today, in the last 6 months, we have also pivoted a little and done more of B2B2C business. So we partnered with a sustainable trade organization and insured around 40,000, 45,000 people for COVID-19 insurance, right? So in the very initial phase, we did benefit insurance policies, and I think we have seen some amount of traction there in terms of people getting benefited and being protected in terms of their financial security despite being impacted by COVID. Similarly, we were able to also work on different lines of business, and probably by the end of this year, we expect that we'd have done 2x the numbers that we did last year. We would have grown our team by approximately 1.5 times, all while seeing profitable growth over the last 6 months. And we are very, very hopeful of how.
That's good, Dhyanesh. That offers very well going into 2021. I'm sure it will continue on this energy. Darshan, the cryptocurrency world. The blockchain revolution that India is waiting to see happen in 2021, you represent that. Give us a sense of what are your pivots that have happened in 2020, and within your domain, what are the milestones you see happening in 2021? Darshan Bhatija?
Absolutely. So Vault is a platform where users can buy and sell cryptocurrencies, and not only that, while you own cryptocurrencies, you can borrow and lend with that as well. So it's very interesting that COVID has so positively impacted our space in particular. So last couple of years has been rough for the crypto community as a whole, but especially for India with the banking ban. And I think as of March 2020, the Supreme Court struck that ban down because they found it to be unconstitutional. And just since then, the uptake, along with the fact that it was designed to be a hedge against bad monetary and fiscal policy, has seen a tremendous growth of the entire crypto space. And if you factor in the saving aspect of the Indian consumer as compared to the West, where I'm sure you know this, but India is the second largest purchaser of gold after the Federal Reserve in the US. And that aspect of hedging against weakening currencies, along with saving mentality and in general appreciation of those assets, has led to cryptocurrencies seeing a 5x growth in terms of its market capitalization. Interestingly enough, towards the latter part of 2020, some of the innovative startups have gotten pretty well capitalized, which was traditionally very starved from 2018. So only the ones that focused on retention and very affordable growth are the ones thriving towards the latter part of 2020. And our journey has been really exciting. We're looking to grow our team by over 3 times, hiring across the board, be it customer support, technology, marketing, and the like. The space is seeing a lot of demand in India in particular, to the point where if you compare the global prices and the India price of any cryptocurrency as of today, there's a 10% premium, which tells us that the Indians in particular value this hedge. And it's never been more relevant because even pre-COVID, when Yes Bank was in trouble, in that month in particular, the rupee weakened by about 10% versus the dollar. So people, financially literate people are taking exposure in crypto. We're seeing a bunch of institutional capital, both in the West and the East, take very large positions in cryptocurrencies. That has actually led to the significant appreciation to the point where it's also at its all-time high today. And I don't see that trend change anytime.
And is there a thumb, when you buy crypto, what are the safeguards one must need to keep in mind when buying? Because again, whenever there is a gold rush, so to say, crypto is like a gold rush. Literally, unscrupulous operators also enter the market. So is there a checklist to buying cryptocurrency? And for our viewers, can you give us a sense of what these checklists are?
Yeah, so not all cryptocurrencies are made the same, just like how not every stock or not every corporate bond is made the same. So it's very important for the consumer to acknowledge that the cryptocurrency market is top heavy for a very good reason. I would say if you were to buy your first cryptocurrency, look at the cryptocurrency market cap and go down from there. And know that every position you go down, your risk is going up by a factor of at least 5 times. So if you were to buy cryptocurrencies, I would strongly urge you to not scroll down at least after the first fold, because that is as good as taking a chance. Because
even in the cryptocurrency world, there are blue chips, so to say, to borrow a non-cryptocurrency terminology and bring it into the cryptocurrency world. So stick to the blue chips.
Absolutely.
Bellwether stocks. I mean, I'm just borrowing terminology from stock market, so we understand that. And thank you for educating us on that. If you had to make one prediction about cryptocurrency in 2021, maybe about the appreciation, the levels it's likely to see, what would that be?
I've been famously bad at making price predictions, but what I can predict is we're going to see a lot of companies building in the crypto space get very well capitalized, to the point where I think over the next 2 years, we're going to see India's first $1 billion crypto company. It's not too far from where we are today already. I know valuations is an empty parameter, especially given how beaten startups have been in particular, but you have to know that this space has been built over very positive unit economics, to the point where every crypto company is at least making 5 times as much as they spend today. Additionally, I would say invest in or with companies that have licenses across different jurisdictions. Just because there are no licenses in India as of today, there are companies that are regulated in Singapore and the US accessible to Indians. We are one of them. So only invest in companies that are regulated. And the next is only invest in companies that are backed by reputable investors, so that, no matter what, your downside is protected.
Okay. Back to you there. Before
All
we
right.
take a
Yeah,
break,
I think it's time for a very short
this
break.
Exciting panel of entrepreneurs. Any comment?
Absolutely. It's time now to open it up to some larger questions and also look forward to 2021. For that, let's go straight across to Dr. Anurag Batra of VW. Dr. Batra.
Uday, I just wanted to say that, clearly Indian entrepreneurs have stayed the course, and they have made sure that all the hard work they've done in 2020 will yield its results in 2021. And I'm sure they've been confronted with new ideas, and their DNA has been supplemented with some new thoughts which will help them thrive in 2021. So I want to ask each one on the panel, what is the change that has happened in their thinking? What are the new ideas that have got added? What is the new line of thinking that has got added, and hopefully change your entrepreneurial DNA forever? Let me start this time with Darshan Batija and go around the house. Darshan, in 2020, what are the new ideas and thought processes you added to yourself as an entrepreneur, which will help you in 2021?
Yeah, I never thought, given that we're an early stage startup, that we could do culture and work from home well at the same time. And circumstances have forced us to be completely remote, and we've promised to be completely remote at least until July 21. And it taught me in particular that you can't ever take anything for granted. There are going to be black swan events, and only the people who adapt.
Don't know it's a black swan or a grey rhino. I keep saying the grey rhino appears more often. I hope it is a black swan and not a grey rhino.
Sure. But it only tells us the innovative survive, and the relevance of software in terms of technology leverage as a whole for businesses and even consumers for that matter has never been relevant. Cash in particular has never seen a worse day than today, especially because we know how easy it is to transmit the disease through that. So fintech in particular has thrived to a point that I think it could be compared to the demonetization time in terms of how hard a push it got forward.
Okay, Darshan, clearly, Saurabh was saying he went from 475 to 600 plus colleagues. I was thinking that, all that recruitment done been virtually. You never met those colleagues. Somebody like me who's a sucker for meeting even a trainee to a senior person for recruitment. I think there's been a mind shift change in terms of how you recruit, and clearly culture, which was formed by water cooler talk, what you did in the cafe and what you did in formal meetings in the office has taken on a whole new meaning. Danish, but give us a sense of what change in your DNA as an entrepreneur, which will help you do well in 2021.
So I think I would echo, Darshan's thoughts about, trying to manage culture and be remote work and all of that. So I think the ability to work remotely, is one of the biggest learning for everybody, including us. There are significant parts of our job which don't require physical presence, but this was something that we did not acknowledge, partly because it was the norm, partly also because it was the expectation. So we are a customer facing entity, and a lot of our work involves meeting people. And there is also this expectation that if you are, for example, in the insurance industry or any service industry, it is good to go and meet the client, right? And that is also the expectation of the client saying, oh, people should come and meet me. But with COVID, I think that has essentially changed. People are saying, okay, the work needs to get done. Whether we meet or we don't meet doesn't really matter. If you can, service what my requirements are, then we are happy to kind of, interact remotely. And I think that is the single biggest change, which also has repercussions on everybody in the industry. Right. So it's the same story. So, if the client feels also that, we are not really meeting, I think a lot of that part also kind of, becomes remote. I think so that has been one of the biggest learning. The second thing for me is also the fact that, you need to have a very strong, not I mean, the ability to kind of, really innovate and kind of, figure out what are the things that you can curtail. And as you were rightly saying, less is more. I think that's true for us as well. We've been able to kind of, draw a lot more from our resources and, extend what we are doing while the COVID thing has been on. So, those are my 2 key learnings.
Okay. Let me come to you, Narasimhan. Narasimhan, what are your top lockdown lessons and what has changed in your DNA as an entrepreneur?
I think, figuring out how to be resilient is something that clearly has come out of this, and to build an organization that can withstand and that can be resilient over the next 5, 10, 15 years. I think that's been something that we have taken very seriously. So one of the things that's given us, it's definitely given us some time to sit back and think about where would the industry be? What should our company be? How should we be putting in the structures? All of that is something, so based on made a lot of changes in terms of how we build technology, how do we build basic building blocks, how do we strengthen some of the good building blocks that we have, and all of that will make us more resilient. So I think resilience is definitely something that is crucial that we have been able to think through. The second thing, I think that we have always had an understanding of the stakeholders that are responsible for success, whether it is suppliers, people working, employees, our customers. And I think in a way, this has made our stakeholder relationship stronger. So having strong stakeholder relationship, working with the right set of stakeholders, getting value across the stakeholder framework for employees, for your customers, for your suppliers, making sure that everybody is there. All of that is building in resilience and building the basic building blocks and making sure that the company is there for the future. I think that's where we are, and I think it's we have invested a lot of time and capital at senior executive level in terms of the company.
Okay. Saurabh, just before I get you in, I think if somebody asked me in 2018, 19, I would always say the ability to deal with ambiguity determines if you're a real entrepreneur or not. I think 2020 tested the ability to deal with ambiguity in a very big way. I think if you can deal with ambiguity and still keep going, I think you should build an impactful business which will eventually be sustainable and meet its objectives. Saurabh Singh, what are your top lockdown lessons? And tell us what got added in your DNA of entrepreneurship.
Sure. So, of course, there's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of pros and cons to this pandemic. But talking about the lessons, so we as a company, we were known for a culture. We had the best pubs and cafes within our, in our office. We have invested a lot in culture, in creating the atmosphere. And we initially, way back in 2018, we also started our Middle East office as a sales spoke office. And so these were something which is a waste right now. This entire, for a change, I'm sitting in office today. This is a 50,000 square foot office, and I'm sitting alone here. There's no one. I just came to check some couple of my files and all. So the problem right now, what we're facing is even the people who are with us, they are missing this the kind of the culture. And
Sure. Coming to office it has its own thrill, it has its own charm. There are social connections at work that come into the play when you meet each other in the office. And clearly, for a lot of people, it gives you an escape from your day-to-day, work at home, so to say. So clearly, we understand that offices are no longer offices. Offices are a place where social connections happen.
Right. So that's one of the, I would say the cons of having this pandemic. And of course, there is a lot of new learning, and the new learning which has taught us that, which we never thought that it is possible that we all can work from home. And in fact, as I said, we have increased our revenue. We have in fact doubled our profits. If we compare this 9 months to the previous 9 months, the 9 months of the lockdown to the previous 9 months, we have doubled our profits. And we never thought that this kind of productivity we will get from if everyone will work from home, the kind of communication, all the time, doing meetings or Zoom and Skype, and I mean, this will increase the productivity. We never thought that. So there's a couple of new learnings which we happened, and we're still learning.
Clearly, work from anywhere works. Clearly, communication with your colleagues helps in achieving objectives. And dare I say that, I want to make another prediction. Uday, I've said that on the show. The more digital becomes bigger, we're doing this virtually. In old times, I would visit the studio, invite all of you to the studio. The more the digital grows, virtual grows, the value of physical face-to-face, grows up. So, it is a natural corollary that as we do more and more things virtually, the value of face-to-face human connection goes up. And that will manifest itself at work. It will manifest itself in lots of products and service categories as the pandemic gets under control and there is a vaccine that starts getting distributed. And I have personally always believed that when it sounds like a cliche, but I don't like cliches. I hate cliches. But when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Clearly, 2020 was a year where the tough got going. How gutsy you were, how inventive you were, how resilient you were, came across in 2020. And those are the qualities that will hold you in good stead throughout your life. Let me ask you, the government has been in play for most part of the last 9 months, right from ensuring lockdowns at the right moment to bringing policy changes, to bringing a stimulus 4 times, for making sure the RBI intervened to bring down the interest rate. The government did its bit. But I would like to know from all the 4 entrepreneurs on this show, how would you rate the government's efforts and what do you think the government can do better from here on? We're about 32 days away from the budget. What are your expectations from the finance minister? Let me start this time with Dhyanesh, but go to Saurabh, Narasimhan, and then come to Darshan. Dhyanesh.
And also what you thought was right in the stimulus this year. What you appreciated in the stimulus and what is left to be desired, which you hope will be announced next year.
So I think the action that the government took was fairly decisive. While there have been critics of how abrupt the lockdown was, and there were certain in-between phases where it was fairly sudden in terms of saying, okay, there's something happening right from tonight. I would say that the government was fairly decisive, and we'll never know. I mean, there are speculations saying there could be something that would have been done better, but hopefully this is a one-time event, and we'll never know as to what decisions were taken. Were they really great or? But I would kind of personally rate them as very, very decisive, taken in the right spirit of ensuring that the infection doesn't really, or COVID-19 doesn't really spread right to the far I would say parts of the country. And I think that was also successful in terms of we have seen most of COVID happening around major metros rather than kind of really going to the rural area. So I think that was appreciated. At the same time, I would say communication could have been better, but again, India is a large country, and I would say there is always a slip between the the cup and the lip. And I think that is one part where I feel that that could have been done by the government or by other stakeholders as well to kind of make this a less or a more seamless experience for all the countrymen and women. So that's one part of it. In terms of the interventions, I think they are well appreciated. The financial interventions, whatever the government has done, I would say from the perspective of insurance or the industry that we are in, there's a lot of work that we do in rural India, and but the government, there are a lot of government schemes that are there, and there is an element, there is no element of GST over there, there's no taxation over there, but a lot of other schemes, there is a tax element over there that's already there. There is something that can be done because bringing insurance awareness and access to rural India is a task in itself, and there if you can make the products more affordable, where tax is also a component, I think it would go a long way in kind of improving the availability of insurance products. So we'll be happy to kind of see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dhyanesh. Let me go to Saurabh. Saurabh, your comment on what the government has done, what it can do better, and your expectations from the budget 4 weeks from now.
Sure. So I think from the start of the pandemic, we were really afraid because most of our people were in town. Almost like 450 people were. They were like really in a panic mode, and we were really wondering, how we will, make sure that the business doesn't hamper. But the things, how it went in terms of the lockdown 1, 2, 3, and the way how the government have reacted. I think it's fairly well. I mean, how they have reacted. I mean, how everything was arranged and managed and everything was done. And going forward, I mean, even today we see a lot of people. I mean, they are now change their location and they have gone to a remote location. Many of our team members, they have gone to some maybe hills and mountains, and they have created their base permanently, and we're pretty fine with that. So talking about the government side, from the budget, I think they're doing fairly well. Because as a startup, because we are not a very old company, we're like in a 6th year of operation, and we see everything, I mean, very smooth and perfectly fine with us. So I personally have no suggestions or nothing to add in terms of the budget perspective. I would say.
The fact is, yes, there were issues at the start because for the first time, even the government was dealing with a lot of unknowns, a lot of variables, lots of scenarios that were not factored in, and it's very easy to criticize the government. But I have said this before on the show, and I'd say that the government did a lot of things right, and we must take note of that. In a country like ours, there were no food rights. The government made sure that people got their food. There was no, security issues. There was no social unrest in a huge country like India. I think it's a huge, sometimes we take a lot that happens positively for granted, and we only know the value of that when it's not okay. So I think we must compliment on the government on doing a fab job. And again, as I've said that because, different state governments had different jurisdictions, sometimes it was a patchwork pandemic. Different states had different rules that applied. So clearly that caused its own issues, but by and large, both the central government and the state governments did a fabulous job and continue to do a fabulous job in the face of adversity. Let me go to Narasimhan. Narasimhan, what are your expectations from the finance minister? How do you think your sector can do better in 2021? As you know, worldwide, these logistics costs are between 6 to 8%. You take American economy, European economy. In India, the costs of supply chain management and logistics are more like 14%. So if you bring down these costs, you can make companies more competitive and contribute to the dream of India becoming a 5 trillion economy. What do you have to say, Narasimhan? You'll have to unmute yourself, Narasimhan.
So absolutely, your numbers are right. We've got with respect to bringing it down from 14 to 8%, and that in itself would be a big boost to GDP. In terms of what we have seen at a macro level, we have seen that at some level there's been some sort of a K-shaped recovery. The stronger players have consolidated, are doing well. The larger companies are doing well. The SMEs have been obliterated. We have been working with a lot of, and their access to cash has been limited. The 3 months or 6 months of lockdown has impacted them, and they had to go through it, but they have to be revived at some level. So I think that the couple of things that, there could be different ways in which the government could do this, but one is clearly stimulating more demand, and stimulating more demand by, there are sectors that have just fallen by the wayside. I think the real estate sector has not done as well. The hospitality sector has had a very hard time. So getting demand back is something that, that we definitely expect should happen. And the second thing is we still are, through my entrepreneurship journey, I've always had, credit issues. Now we're not in that place anymore, but we have had access to credit for entrepreneurship has been quite hard, if not through the venture capital route, through banks and other things. So I think bringing in investments, having better access to credits for small, medium businesses, for entrepreneurs, to grow their business to a scale which is, which is meaningful is something that I hope that there are steps that are taken. So access to credit, growing demand, and getting investments from global sources. All of that will have a trickle-down effect of investment that flows through the economy. So I hope that policies are made to bring in investments, to grow demand, and to get credit flowing into the system.
Okay, clearly, I said this before on the show, that in a lot of sectors, the government may not want the demand to come back till COVID slows down. or there is a vaccine because they're contact sectors, but maybe post-March, as and when the rollout is well on its way, I think you will see the government to start doing public spending, and that public spending will then create demand in those sectors and create the impetus that you talk about. Let me go to the Darshan Batija. Darshan, what are your expectations from the finance minister, specifically in the budget? What can the finance minister do to kind of unlock your sector?
Absolutely. I think the government did a phenomenal job. The lockdown was early, it was very decisive, and the most dangerous part of the pandemic, when the most number of variables were there, is when we needed a swift lockdown, and that's what they did. A couple of very notable countries made a huge mistake on this front. We acted, which was amazing. They've also followed up by funding research, which is, again, incredible. I think one recommendation that I would have on just the stimulus bit is we as entrepreneurs and businesses tend to be on the fortunate end of the spectrum. We're privileged. We have, although we may not have as much access to capital, we have access to some capital. I think the government needs to focus on helping people who've been laid off directly from the pandemic, and that's going to have an immediate boost in terms of spending in the government, and it's just a significant amount of pain relief for the entire the country more than anything else. And from a recommendation from a budget and taxation standpoint, you're going to hear this. You're going to very rarely hear this, but please come and tax us. Please tax the crypto space. Don't ban it.
I like that. It is about providing legitimacy and bringing it in the mainstream. That's what I hear. And, I want to ask a quick comment from all of you, and I want a specific comment and qualify what you say. When do you see the economy coming back in full bloom? 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months, and why? Let me start with you, Darshan.
I think the economy is going to start recovering in a very meaningful way once version 1 of the vaccines are rolled out. I anticipate the calendar Q2, financial year end of Q1 of 2021, which is when we're also planning to come back to our office, which is also when we're probably expanding to other countries as well. 6 months.
Okay. Danesh Bhatt, your suggestion for the future?
So I think somewhere around, May, June, July, depending upon how the monsoon pans out, from a rural perspective, I think some amount of recovery is already on the way. Typically, even in the last Kharif season, I think the sowing that was done was maybe 18% higher than what happened in FY19, and India had one of the best monsoons in the last 6 years. But I think if that continues, I see a significant uplift happening in the rural economy by the next Kharif season.
Okay. Mr. Singh, when do you see the economy coming back? When do you see becoming 1,200 people from the 600 you are in? That would be truly economy helping you grow at a massive rate.
I mean, touch wood, it's really helping us out even now. From the government's initiative of Digital India to banning of all the Chinese apps, and from making Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yesterday, the Prime Minister exalted all of us to prioritize using made in India, make in India products, and clearly that augurs well for our local entrepreneurs back in India.
Absolutely. So so from banning of those apps to making Atmanirbhar Bharat, and so we see. It won't take more than 6 months. I think before that, everything.
Okay. Clearly an optimistic panel. Narasimhan, you have the final word on when do you think the economy will be back?
Sure, I think it should be 6 to 12 months. The vaccine delivery will happen, not just in India, but globally. Things will settle down. There will be global flow of capital and goods and all of those. So I think India will be in a good spot. There's a lot of capital that's waiting to be invested. I hope that it comes to India and that we will grow at what we desire to be.
Okay, back to you there. Clearly, this is a bunch of very optimistic entrepreneurs who have done well and pivoted well in the last 8-9 months and are looking at 2021 in a very optimistic way.
Absolutely. But since we are looking at 2021, any New Year resolutions, any targets for 2021 for your company already, Saurabh?
So we are still struggling with a lot of new hirings, and that's one of the target area where we really need to work on, because the problem right now is, you need to hire people remotely, and that's one of the challenge what we're facing, and we're working on it. So yeah, so that's one area where we need to focus.
Narasimhan?
I think we have focused on growth, and like what Mr. Singh was saying, I think we are adding to our our workforce. But what I personally look for is is to reduce the amount of work from home. I would actually like to go out for good dinner with colleagues. I think the social interaction bit is very important as humans, and I think that's what makes working very exciting. And I hope that comes back next year.
Dhyanesh?
So I would say from my perspective, it's more about continuing the focus on profitable growth and keeping the belt tightened till we really see the recovery for 6 months and beyond.
All right, and Darshan, you have the last word.
Yeah, we're focused on being regulated across Singapore, the US, UK, and a bunch of other progressive jurisdictions. We hope to add India in that if they come out with licensing requirements, and we're doubling down on our culture and team. So we're hiring and we're getting licensed everywhere.
All right. Well, thanks to all of you for joining us on this edition of the NewsX Business World panels on the Indian economy. Thanks to Dr. Batra for being with us as well.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.